I remember when I walked into my counselor's office, I ended up looking around confused on why she wasn't there, and then out of nowhere she ended up coming in, but she was wearing nothing but a robe. Like, what was she doing? Yo, what is going on, you guys? My name's Bubba, and welcome back to another really embarrassing story. So this story all takes place back when I was in high school, and this was actually my grade 10 year. Now in grade 10, I'm not gonna lie to you, I never had good experiences with the counselors in my high school. Like, I never understood why counselors were even a thing in high school, because let's be real here, if you're really having a hard time, are you really gonna go to the one person that only cares about your education system? Like, I think the counselors are only really useful when it comes to actually getting you inside a university or a college, not for actual counseling. But I remember basically there was one time where in my grade 10 year, I'm not gonna lie to you, I wasn't doing the best in school. I'm not gonna lie, I would usually skip school to go out and do the devil's tango with many different women, and it got to a point where my absences started becoming a real problem with the school system. And I remember there was one time when I was sitting in my homeroom class and I was just basically trying to catch up on some work. And as I'm just writing down a bunch of things on a piece of paper, out of nowhere, I ended up seeing my teacher walk up to me, my homeroom teacher. She walks up to me and says, Bubba, I'm not gonna lie to you. You've been absent a lot recently, and apparently the counselor wants to go and talk to you. She wants to talk to me, is what I said. Yeah, apparently it's something about your grades and basically what your future holds for you. I don't really know. I ended up looking at her really confused, and I just said, you know what, whatever. And I ended up basically getting up from my chair and started heading towards the counselor's office. Now, I think this was gonna be one of the first times I ever went to go see the counselor. And the funny part was that the counselor that was already there in our school at the time was not one that was actually like permanently supposed to be in our school system. So I was literally about to go talk to a counselor that wasn't even supposed to be the actual counselor. Going on with the story though, I remember I ended up going to the office, and when I did, I sat down on the side, basically waiting for her to let me in. But as I was waiting, I remember someone else came out of her office, and it was a young girl. And this girl ended up coming out and started crying over and over again because apparently she got like a B in her grade. I have really no idea, but she started like sobbing and crying when she came out of that office, and I knew this was definitely going to be the end of me until it wasn't. Because I remember what happens next, honestly, was really surprising, because when I got up and I ended up going into her office, I ended up seeing a really hot lady sitting there with her cherries out, and she just looked really, really good. Like, I am not joking. Like, I was really surprised that a counselor was wearing a really nice, like, thin black dress. Like, she looked really, really good. And when I looked at her, I ended up having my eyes open wide, and I looked at her saying, hey, like, what's going on? I'm Bubba. Hi, Bubba. Yeah, I need to talk to you. So can you just sit down with me real quick? Yeah, sure. What's up? I basically ended up trying to play it cool, I guess, in a way. I don't really know what kind of person says what's up to their teacher, but at the same time, if you do, I guess comment it down below. But I remember I sat down and I basically ended up saying like, oh, so like, what's the problem? Yeah, so the thing is, Bubba, apparently you have a lot of absences on your attendance. Can you tell me why that is? Yeah, I don't know. I just haven't been really feeling myself lately. I don't know. I just don't want to be in school sometimes, I guess I could say. Which was a totally big lie, because there was no way I was actually going to tell the counselor that the reason I was not showing up to school was to go do the devil's tango. So obviously, I remember from there, she ended up looking at me saying, okay, well, Bubba, if there's something going on at home, you know you can talk to me, right? Like, I am your counselor. Which in reality, she actually wasn't. But I ended up just saying, yeah, that's all good. Yeah, I understand. I'll come in here if I do need to talk to you, I guess. Okay, good. Also, I do want to see you regularly now. So if you can come in at least every day before your third block, that would be fantastic. Wait, what? Why? Because obviously, I don't want you running off, and I rather you be actually in school, and this is my way of knowing. Okay, sure. You know what? Whatever. At that moment, I remember I got up and left the counselor's office really upset, because obviously who would want to go to the counselor's office every day? It was already bad enough I had to go there that day. But let me tell you guys, things went from worse to, I want to say, better, because the next day when I ended up showing up to my counselor's office, I ended up sitting down with her, and she told me, so how are you feeling today? Do you feel like running off? No, I'm in school, aren't I? Is what I told her. Yeah, you are in school. Okay, so I do have a couple questions though I want to ask you. Yeah, sure, shoot. What are they? Okay, well, first thing, how do you feel about your future? My future? Where do you see yourself going in like the next like 5 years from now? Now, I'm not gonna lie to you, at this time, I did not know what my future held for me. Like, I did not know back when I was in grade 10 that I was gonna be a YouTuber telling you the stories about my life. So I ended up looking at her saying, oh, I don't know, maybe like a businessman of some sort. So I would like to, you know, be in business, I guess. I don't really know, to be honest. I really don't have a plan. And do you feel sad that you don't have a plan? What? Why should I feel sad? And at that point, she started questioning me on things that honestly, I wasn't really sure I really knew the answers to, and if my life was actually going to be meaningful 5 years from now. Honestly, it got me really sad and really just not happy to be there. And honestly, for a counselor that's supposed to make me happy to be in school, she really did the opposite. But after when I started to feel sad, I ended up putting my head down and my counselor noticed. And she decided to stand up, sit in the chair beside me, and she put her hand on my thigh. She said, "Baba, don't worry, you're still a very charming man, and honestly, you will be something one day. I promise you that." Boy, was she not wrong. But one thing I will say, damn, this counselor put her hand on my thigh, bro. Like, she definitely wanted some. Obviously, at this time, I didn't notice that, obviously, because, well, I was actually really sad about my 5 years in the future time, I guess. But I remember I ended up looking at her and I said, "Really? Like, you think so?" "Yeah, Baba, I'm sure you're holding a lot of great things for your future." And I remember me and her, we ended up having like an eye-to-eye moment until another student walked in saying, "Oh, is it my turn to talk to you, Miss Counselor?" And yeah, I got up, I ended up leaving, and she ended up winking at me as she was sitting across from the other student that just walked in as I was leaving the door. And at that moment, I knew something was definitely up between me and the counselor, but I wasn't sure what exactly until what happens next. Because I remember the next thing that ends up happening was I ended up showing up the next day. And next day when I showed up, I remember I ended up sitting down with her. And when I sat down, I said, "Hey, like, how's it going?" "Oh, good. Now that you're here." "Cool. Yeah. So, I just want to talk to you about yesterday. I kind of thought what I wanted for my future." And at that moment, I remember I ended up telling her, like, basically, like, my plan about going to school and stuff, which none of it ever ended up happening. Thanks to you guys for actually following the channel and basically watching these stories. But going on with the story, I remember she ended up basically, like, you know, being happy that I found out my future. And then she ended up asking me the one question that I really did not think of at the time. "So, Baba, do you ever see yourself, I don't know, maybe getting married in the future?" "Married," is what I told her. And I didn't really know what to say at this moment. I never thought about actually being in a heavy relationship back when I was in grade 10 because the only thing I was good at was, well, you guys may know it as the devil's tango. And that was the only thing I actually knew and cared about. Obviously, I wasn't going to tell her that, so I said, yeah, you know, if I meet the right woman, then obviously I would want to marry her and, yeah, I guess, you know, get married and stuff, but that's a really rare chance. She ended up looking at me kind of in question, and she said, "Well, Baba, what is your ideal woman?" At that moment, I started like describing, like, you know, I want her to be attractive, I want her to be friendly, I want her to be, you know, someone that likes me for me, you know, all the typical stuff that the average kid would say if they had to describe their dream crush or, you know, girlfriend or whatever. And basically, she looks at me and she ends up standing up once again. She came up and sat beside me and said, "You know, you just described me, right?" "Huh?" At that moment, I remember she ends up turning my head towards her and she ends up kissing me. My counselor literally made out with me for like a good 10 minutes with her. And then out of nowhere, I ended up saying, "Wait, what if another student walks in?" "Oh, don't worry about it, Baba. No one's gonna walk in. I canceled everything else today." And at that moment, she ended up basically unbuttoning her shirt. And well, I'm not gonna say any more than that other than me and her, we ended up doing the devil's tango. At that moment, my mind was blown. I did not realize that I just did the devil's tango with my counselor, but at the same time, it wasn't a surprise. Because like I said, the only thing I was good at back in high school was doing the devil's tango. I remember me and her would have these regular appointments of doing the devil's tango afterwards, and I'm not gonna lie to you, 1 month later she ended up actually leaving the school system because once again, like I said earlier in the story, she wasn't supposed to be my actual counselor. And well, I guess she took me out of like the counseling system because, well, the new counselor that came back that was supposed to be our original counselor never wanted to see me. So in a way, I guess she kind of made my school year more exciting like a counselor should have. But if you watch this story till the end, make sure you guys follow for more embarrassing stories just like this one. Peace out, guys.